And here's something that Putin won't let slide for sure: NATO's expansion plans. The military alliance is conducting drills in the Arctic with a vow to protect their newest member, Finland. Alongside the drills, there's now a renewed push for Sweden's membership. Sweden had filed its application along with Finland last year, but they haven't been able to get through the finish line. Our next report tells you how Russia is responding.
NATO has a new battleground to flex its muscles: the Arctic. With Finland joining the military alliance, the NATO's borders with Russia have now doubled. That's why over 1,000 troops have gathered here. They're conducting military drills. These exercises have a clear objective. They are a demonstration of NATO's commitment to collective defense. So, if Finland comes under attack, all other 30 members will join forces to defend it.
U.S. Army is here training with our newest NATO ally to build that capability to help defend Finland if anything happens. That's our commitment to them.
Sweden wants the same privileges. It applied to join the NATO last year. Everyone is on board except for one: Turkey. Hungary too is yet to ratify Sweden's accession, but Turkey is seen as the main stumbling block. What are Ankara's objections? It's demanding action against the Kurdistan Workers' Party. Turkey calls it a terrorist group and accuses Sweden of harboring it. The United States is in no mood to wait anymore. This week, it decided to send a message.
We urge both Turkey and Hungary, which is also not yet ratified, to ratify the accession as quickly as possible. There is no reason for any further time. Sweden is ready now. That decision should move forward now.
There is talk of a deal. Biden spoke to Erdogan recently. He hinted at a quid pro quo: American F-16 jets in exchange for Sweden's accession.
I congratulated Erdogan, and he still wants to work on something on the F-15s. I told him we wanted to deal with Sweden until I get that done.
So the US is keen on cracking a deal. It's only a matter of time. But the bid to expand NATO comes at a sensitive time. Tensions are growing in Kosovo. The divided town of Zvecan is the flashpoint, where Serbs have engaged in fierce clashes with NATO peacekeepers. At least 30 soldiers were injured in the violence. Ethnic tensions have flared up again. Public anger erupted after ethnic Albanian mayors took office in Zvecan. This is an area dominated by ethnic Serbs. They had boycotted the elections in April. This allowed ethnic Albanians to take power. Today, they gathered again to demand the removal of a mayor. Dozens of protesters assembled outside a government building as the NATO troops stood behind barbed wires and watched. Russia has weighed in. It holds the NATO troops responsible for the flare-up.
A large eruption is brewing up in the center of Europe, in the very place where in 1999, NATO carried out an aggression against Yugoslavia, violating all possible principles of Helsinki Accords and other OSCE documents. The situation is alarming, but the West made total suppression of everyone who voices their own opinion about its policy.
The conflict in Kosovo dates back to the 1990s, when Albanians rebelled against Serbia's rule. It led to a brutal crackdown. About 13,000 Albanians died. That's when NATO entered the region. A military intervention forced Serbia to pull out. Kosovo declared its independence in 2008. While ethnic Albanians make up more than 90% of the population in Kosovo, the Serbs dominate the north, which is why thousands of NATO forces are still in the region, and they now have the challenge to restore peace. The NATO is deploying more troops.
We have decided to deploy 700 more troops from the Operational Reserve Force for Western Balkans, and to put an additional battalion of reserve forces on higher readiness so they can also be deployed if needed.
European leaders are calling for a de-escalation. With tensions brewing on the front lines with Russia, the region can ill afford a conflict right at the center of the continent.
And now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. Let me begin with Brazil. Clashes broke out over a bill on recognition of ancestral lands. Indigenous protesters attacked police officials with bows and arrows. Meanwhile, a pageant in Brazil became a decrowning event. The runner-up's partner snatched the crown from the winner and aggressively tossed it on the floor. And an all-private astronaut crew that had gone to the International Space Station has returned. And finally, what makes May 31st significant? We're taking you back in history. On this day in 1961, South Africa declared itself a republic. The country was a colony of Great Britain for many years. It became independent in 1931, but the British monarchy remained head of state. But today, 62 years ago, South Africa decided to cut all formal ties with Great Britain. We leave you with that. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Humble submission to Almighty God. We declare that we are conscious of our responsibility towards God and man.
Got a better view now of the recovery team. Fast boat now clearing the way for the lift.
All right, first view of our crew. Specialist.
That looks like Rayana.
Rayana Barnawi, egressing a Dragon capsule.
Email exchanges from inside the BBC, they talk about the risk of violating Indian laws. It's easier to rake up the freedom of speech debate, but does it give anyone a free pass to knowingly violate the law? America supports India because it needs India's support in return. And India is working with the US because it suits India's interests. This is how geopolitics works. Last night, he diffused a crisis with his defense minister. But today, Netanyahu was confronted with a new problem. His cabinet seems to have rebelled against him. The UK is looking at the Indian subcontinent to fill its coffers. That India seems to be negotiating from a position of power, like a partner and not a former colony.